Welcome for the Lessons for Luca podcast. I'm your host, Michael DeSanti, author of New Man Emerging, transformational trainer and coach, and most importantly, I'm Luca's dad. In this episode, I want to talk about living on purpose, living with purpose, and living purposefully. It's a common conversation that I have with the men that I coach, but it also can be an overwhelming conversation for a lot of people. Like the idea that there is this one purpose in my life, and if I don't find it, if I don't reach it, if I don't fulfill it, then somehow my life falls completely short. And my goal and intention in this episode is to give you some framework and some tools to instigate self-inquiry into what is that greater purpose for you and how to access it, how to cultivate it, and how to nurture it. If we think of living with purpose, living on purpose, purposeful living. When we look at purpose, we're really looking at living deliberately or living intentionally. If we think of a little kid that's instigating another kid and somehow they get into a bit of a scuffle, we say, like, you instigated him on purpose. That means that what you did deliberately. You did it intentionally. And so living with purpose, living on purpose really has us and invites us to, where do I live deliberately? Where do I live intentionally? And so if we can take this grand conversation and distill it down into more manageable or bite-sized pieces, we start to look at, where can I execute and deliver and demonstrate a more deliberate way of living. If I'm not living deliberately, if I'm not living on purpose, if I'm not living intentionally, I'm going to naturally default to my automatic. I'm going to default to being over concerned with what I call our everyday concerns. And that's going to keep me in this survival cycle of scarcity and immediacy. I'm going to just go from one bill to the next bill, one reactivity to the next reactivity, one default to the next default. Purpose, living from a purposeful place, living from a deeper, meaningful place, it invites us to live beyond our everyday concerns. In a marriage, there's certain everyday concerns, but a thriving marriage has us live beyond those everyday concerns. Of course, there's bills to pay and needs to be met and logistics to work out and disagreements and where you see the world the same way and where you don't. Purposeful living invites us to live beyond that, not ignore it, not ignore our everyday concerns, but live from a deeper meaning, deeper understanding that my life is more than just my everyday concerns. And so when we approach our work, when we approach our marriage, when we approach our domains in life, we're injecting a deeper level of meaning to them. And what is the meaning? And the meaning is ultimately, especially in purpose, the meaning is, what is the experience that I desire to generate in my life and in the lives of others? What's the deeper experience that I put the weight of my life behind, that I'm willing to grow for, that I'm willing to be uncomfortable for? What's the weight that I'm willing to carry in deeper meaning and deeper responsibility? That's what purpose invites us to. And if that conversation seems too big or too grand, start on an everyday mundane level. What do you deliberately choose to do to improve your health, to improve your marriage, to improve your financial well-being, to improve your relationships, to improve your spiritual life and your passions in life? Set out something to deliberately mark and then go hit that mark. That starts to prime the muscle of purpose in us, that I intentionally set out to do this, I followed through, and I made it happen. If I don't, again, those defaults to survival and immediacy and scarcity, they keep me stuck in my everyday concerns. If I'm over focused and overemphasized and worried about just paying the next rent, it almost becomes insensitive for someone to say or ask, what's your greater purpose in life? it starts to challenge that framework. Purpose and deeper meaning is a self-inquiry that, of course, my everyday concerns are important, but what will I live for that's greater than them? What would I live for from an elevated place of this experience that I desire to generate in myself and in my life, and also in the lives of others, the lives of my loved ones, the lives of my community? That's a deeper experience. And so purpose is really important, that we actually frame it from a place that it's experiential. What's that deeper experience that I genuinely desire to cultivate and to contribute to my life and to the lives of others? That could be authenticity, healing, freedom, power, confidence. The deeper purpose in life can actually be broad and even vague. But we want to distinguish, and this is really important, I talk a lot about this in my book, we want to distinguish our purpose in life from our platform in life. Purpose in life is the genuine desire that I sincerely want to generate in my life and in the lives of others. Platform in life is the vehicle in which I deliver that purpose. Platform is what I do. Purpose is why I do it. And this is really, really important to distinguish, because so many of us over-identify with our platforms in life. We over-identify with our career, with our status, with what we've accomplished or accumulated. All those things are fine. All those things are even great, as long as they're defined as our platform in life. And that platform is the vehicle in which I could deliver and execute and demonstrate this deeper meaning, this deeper understanding, this deeper desire of my life, these deeper experiences that I genuinely desire to generate. If we over-focus on platform, we tend to over-identify with what we do. Well, what happens when what you do, you can no longer do, or what you do evolves into something new or suddenly stops? What happens when you retire or you're no longer able to do it, at least to the effect that you used to be able to do it? This happens a lot when I coach former athletes. When they retire in their early 30s or mid 30s, part of them feels like their life is over, because for most of my life, I have identified with catching a football or hitting a baseball. Well, when that is no longer, a lot of times people go into an identity crisis. We go into a depression. How many times have we seen athletes hit a pinnacle of their craft and they win the Super Bowl or win the World Series or win the championship, whatever that is? And then after that euphoria, they're left with, now what's my life about? That's an over-identification of platform. And so we want to distinguish these two, because platforms in life are going to constantly evolve. Purpose in life only grows deeper. And that's really, really, really important, that we focus on purpose as that genuine desired experience. And then I calibrate and align all of my platforms to be the vehicle in which I generate that through. Because those platforms will evolve. I am an author and a coach and a father and a husband. It would be convenient for me to say that those were all my purposes in life. But really, those are my platforms in life. I'm very clear that the purpose in my life is to generate healing in myself and in others and in communities. I'm very clear on that. All of these other vehicles, all of these other domains, these are my platforms in life. My husbandhood is a platform in life. Fatherhood is a platform in life. My career, my work, that's all a platform in life. And as those evolve, which they ultimately will, I stay true and stay clear and truthful on what is that genuine purpose that I desire to generate through those vehicles. So it's really important that we distinguish purpose and platform. Purpose is classic, almost unchanging, but deepening. Platforms are ever evolving. I understand that fatherhood is not always going to look this way. I understand that my career is not always going to look this way. I understand that even my marriage is going to evolve. It's going to look differently 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I understand and accept the evolution of that. but I still want all of those domains to be in alignment with that as a vehicle in which I deliver that deeper purpose in life. Purpose is also it's about being deliberate. It's about being intentional. It's also about being generative, that there is something in me, this innate desire to contribute and generate value. And when we live from a place where we are focused on generating value for my life, for the nucleus of my life, for my family, for my communities, for the world, I live from a generative place, that my ultimate desire is to be a contributor of value, whether that's in the workplace, in the global economy, the local economy, whether that's in my marriage, whether that's in my relationships. My default, I want it to be generative from a place of contributing value. That does not mean that everything needs to be some Herculean effort. And if it doesn't change the spin and rotation of the earth, then it's completely irrelevant. I can be generative in a room where there's only two of us. I could be generative from stage. I could be generative in my community. It's my deep desire to generate and contribute value. If we look at the opposite of that, someone who has no desire to generate or is fearful that if I generate, if I contribute, what happens if that value isn't met, respected, honored, seen? And so defaulting to comfort, let me generate nothing. Let me just stay focused on my everyday concerns. Let me just go through life, go through the motions. Let me live by default rather than by deliberate design. Well, when we live that way, we actually become degenerative. If you think of the language, we even call people that contribute nothing to society, to family, to community, to culture, we call them degenerates. We are ultimately generating nothing of value. So the conversation around purpose is, what am I willing to be uncomfortable for, grow for, develop a skill set for that generates and contributes value to my life and to others? So it's another way that I want to help you frame what is that deeper desire to contribute and be generative. I think of our early ancestors. When we lived in tribes and lived in bands, lived in smaller family and culture, generating purpose in life was ultimately about, what function do I fill? What function in my tribe do I fill? What function in the band do I fill that actually elevates the tribe and elevates the community, elevates the band? Does that mean my skill set is best as a hunter? Does that mean my skill set is best as a chief, a holy man, or a warrior? What is the function that I fill? That's what we want to really break down purpose to. That was easier when we lived in smaller communities. There's a saying in Italian that talks about how you're most effectively loyal to how far you can hear the bell tower. Like, we are really designed as human beings to be in smaller bands. And now we live in such a global system that we think everything has to be like, how am I going to impact the world on social media, on all of these channels? And how do I really, change the trajectory of the globe? We keep purpose on such a big, broad scale. But really, we're most effective when we generate in local communities, in our family, in our small nucleus of our life. Start there. Start there in the demonstration, in the muscle of, how can I positively impact my family today, my extended family today, my community today? How can I impact the place I go to work every day? How could I lead or generate value there every day, over and over and over again? And it starts to make this big and broad conversation of purpose. It starts to distill it down into far more manageable bites. Every day, we have the opportunity to be generative. Every day, we have the opportunity to be a contribution. Every day, we have the ability to make someone's day. And that's a muscle. That muscle gets to be exercised over and over again. And the more and more we exercise it, the more it elevates us beyond our everyday concerns. One of the philosophies that I really respect around purpose is the Japanese philosophy of ikigai. I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. But ikigai is really the philosophy that your purpose in life is this brilliant intersection between your mission, your passion, your vocation, and your profession. And because I love alliteration so much, I frame that as the exploration of purpose is proficiency, passion, platform, and preference. To me, it just keeps that alliteration of P, directly connected to purpose. And so we've spoke about platform. Remember, those are the vehicles in which I serve my community. I add value to my community. I add value to the world. I add value to my life and others. So I won't spend too much time on platform. But proficiency is really, what am I uniquely and even innately good at? When it comes to purpose, I always look at, no matter who you are, you have a unique gift and a unique skill set. Some of us, that could be small and seemingly inconsequential or mundane, and some of us, that may be grand and huge and really, really impactful. But coming from the perspective that your purpose in life has a very unique proficiency, that there's some skill set, some gift that comes naturally to you, easy to you, almost innate to you. And when we look at purpose, and sometimes when it's confusing or overwhelming, we think and we come from this place where I've got to find my purpose. Well, when I even language it from I have to find my purpose, that means that my purpose is somewhere outside of me. It's external. And unconsciously, that actually puts a lot of pressure on us. That if I don't find it, what does that mean about my life? If I search all my life and don't find it, is my life wasted? Proficiency looks and invites us to say, like, you are actually already born with an innate gift. Let's forge that, cultivate that, discover that, nurture that. That there's something about you that's genuinely unique to me. That you were born with this almost spiritual fingerprint, this spiritual blueprint, that as you cultivate it, as you discover it, as you forge it from within and deepen it, you actually generate and create more and more value throughout your life and throughout the lives of others. And so just reframing that proficiency is actually saying there's already innate skills and gifts in me. What are they? There's two tools that I want to give you here. And one is going back to living in smaller tribes and bands most of human existence. One is cultivate a growth-minded community. And the reason I say that is because most of us in isolation think that our problems and our challenges are unique and that our gifts and our skill sets are universal or common. But the truth is that when you are in a meaningful and growth-minded community, what you start to realize is that our problems and our challenges are very common, and our gifts and our skills are incredibly unique. And living in that space, we could actually strengthen, wow, there's something that I do well, I do easily, naturally, innately, and uniquely. And by doing it, by doubling down on it, by sharpening it, it actually elevates all of us. And so the first is to actually reframe the perspective that everyone else has these great gifts and skill sets, and all I have are problems and challenges. Well, I could almost guarantee that your problems and challenges, although not small, are common. The four main challenges that are universal is the things that keep us up at night, the things that we worry about, are ultimately our relationships, our health, or the health of the people we love, our finances, and our children. 99% of the world stays up at night because of one of those four things. That's not uncommon. That's not unique. However, your gifts and your skill sets may actually contribute to improving or even solving some of those frustrations and challenges. And so what is that you possess that comes naturally to you that you could actually double down on, that you could strengthen, that you could polish your communication of value of? That's tool number one, is to reframe it. Tool number two is in the pillar of purpose, of proficiency. Get feedback. Ask the people that you respect and that you care about, when you think of me, when you see me, what do I do well? What do I do easily? And be open to the feedback. Some people might tell you you're a great communicator. Some people may tell you you're really organized when it comes to problem solving. Some people may give you common feedback that, you have this ability to diffuse conflict in a room. Don't overlook that. Receive the feedback, because if you start to get a common thread of feedback from people that you value their opinion and respect, there's a invitation in there. There's an invitation for you to look and to discover and to polish, to double down on and to strengthen. So get feedback from people that you admire or respect. What is it that I do well, naturally, or almost innately? What's unique about my gifts and skill set? And so that's exercise number two in that pillar of proficiency. So we spoke about platform. We spoke about proficiency. Next, I want to speak about passion. Purpose is for others. Passion is for you. The things that light you up in life, the things that fill your cup, the things that you love and that you value, you must nurture. So often we pause or procrastinate or delay the passions that we have in life, the hobbies, the things that light us up, the little things, the big things, because we think it noble to forego some of those things while we over-focus on our everyday concerns. It's important that we constantly fill our cup. It's important that we are giving ourselves the fuel to be generative, that we give ourselves the fuel to be enthusiastic about life, about contribution, about generating a life of design rather than default, a life of value for myself and impact for others. That comes from filling your own cup. What are you passionate about? What lights you up? That doesn't necessarily mean you need to go and make an entire career of profit around what you're passionate about. There's things I'm incredibly passionate about that I'll never receive $1 for. But by exercising them, demonstrating them, and doing them, they fill my cup up in such a way that it makes me a better husband. It makes me a better father. It makes me a better business owner and a better coach, a better author. It makes me better in all of those domains. We've got to be careful that we are not foregoing and sacrificing those passions in life just to grind more and more. We got to give ourselves the opportunity to rest, to refuel, to be regenerative to ourselves. And that looks like fulfilling those passions, doing the things that make life exciting, doing those things that we want to aspire to, that have sometimes nothing to do with our bottom line and business and profit. It's super important that we're constantly filling up our cup. The fourth pillar of purpose is preference. Preference is really the things that I enjoy doing, whether or not I'm getting paid for it. So what is it that, every day you actually enjoy doing things? Some people have the preference of working with numbers and organizing spreadsheets, and because it elevates either the business or the company, or it elevates their organization, they prefer to do it. Personally, I don't. I tend to prefer communicating ideas, big picture, visionary style things. That to me is my preference. If you give me too many details over and over and over again, I start to become bored, disinterested. I lose motivation. I want to actually get to a certain point where I'm really outsourcing anything but my craft, outsourcing anything but my skill set and my inner genius. Because if I'm bogged down with preferences that I don't prefer, if I'm bogged down with tasks that I don't prefer, it's not that they're not important. I just know that that's not really where my skill set lies. So some of us may be making very profitable bottom lines in our business, but we might be actually doing things that are way outside our preference or way outside our authenticity. I want to start to clean that up. I want to make sure that my passion and my preference, that my platforms, that my proficiencies are actually all getting fed from different angles. And so what that does is that, remember, purpose deepens. And as I exercise that muscle, I'm just bringing myself deeper and deeper into that uniqueness of myself, that spiritual blueprint, that what the East calls my dharma. Like, why am I here? Purpose really constantly asks the questions of why am I here? Why, where and what does my skill set serve best? Where does that skill set add value to what the world needs right now on a micro level and on a macro level? And so as we explore this conversation of purpose, although it's a big conversation, we want to break it down into manageable and doable and repeatable muscle over and over again on a micro level, on a macro level, that I could enter a room and I could be generative, that I have the worthiness that I get to do something in life that I'm passionate about, that I'm proficient in. And at the same time, my life has a meaning, a deeper meaning that I'm willing to grow and be uncomfortable for. What in purpose is so meaningful that you'll actually welcome the struggle? What is so meaningful to you that you're worth it to you? It'll be worth meeting your fears and your inadequacies and building a skill set for, because contribution and value is that important to you. In life, there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be something that is going to require you to carry weight for. Purpose requires that you carry that weight meaningfully. What is meaningful enough to you that it's worth the weight, it's worth the effort, it's worth the struggle, it's worth overcoming for? That's the invitation of purpose. What is worth the responsibility of carrying a weight? You are going to carry weight one way or the other. You're either going to carry the weight of purpose and meaning, or you're going to carry the weight of regret and missed opportunity. You're going to carry the purpose of weight, the responsibility of weight for being judged by other people's opinions and other people's perceptions and points of view, or you're going to carry the weight of their expectations and shrink to them and not take advancement on your life. You're going to carry weight one way or the other. Purpose invites us to make that weight or that heaviness or that responsibility meaningful. The last thing I'll say about purpose, going back to the beginning of living deliberately, living meaningfully, living intentionally. There's an old Vietnamese monk, Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, and he had this great meditation. I don't remember what book it was in, but he had this great meditation. It's really a hugging meditation. And he says, the next time you hug someone, give them a hug. And then after you give them a hug, think about if that was the last hug you were ever able to give them. Think about if after you parted ways, they passed away and you can never hug them again. And thinking of that or presencing that, then give them another hug. That hug will be different than the first hug. And that's actually deliberate living. That's intentional living. That's meaningful living. That's purposeful living. That it's not what I do, it's how I do what I do. It's the meaning behind what I do. It's the why that is generative. That one hug could be natural, even reflexive, and almost mundane. But a meaningful hug, a purposeful hug, requires your presence. It requires your deliberateness. It requires your intentionality. To put a deeper meaning to mundane things is really what purpose invites us to over and over and over again. That could be on a micro level. That could be on a macro level. Every one of us has been given a unique plot of land to till in life. Some of us have given a plot of land that's 2 by 2. Some of us have given a plot of land that's 10 by 10. 20 by 20, 100 by 100. But we spend most of our lives comparing, wow, if I just had that plot of land, I would be so much more grateful, so much more thankful, so much more appreciative of life. Well, in all of our interaction to compare our plot of land to everyone else's, the more I focus on other people's, the more there's weeds growing in mine. Purpose invites us to redirect my aim and my focus and say, this is the plot of land I've been given. These are the unique gifts and skill sets I've been given. What will I do with them in this life? How will I foster them, nurture them, forge them, and then contribute them to the lives of the people around me? That's the invitation of purpose. Bring it down to a manageable scale, a micro scale, and do it over and over and over again in every room. And sometimes you'll fall off, and sometimes you'll need to recalibrate. But that opportunity is always there for us to live meaningfully, live intentionally, live deliberately, and to live with and live on purpose. I hope this episode was valuable for you. It is an absolute honor to be on this journey with you, as always. And until we meet again, be a good man, live a good life, and determine each of those for yourself.